What's going on, guys? Alex here with 814 EDC, and today I'm going to do my full review on the Kizer Kuh. Now, this is one of the 3 Kizer knives that I have in for review via the Lefty passaround group. So you have the Kuh, you have the Dogfish, and you have the Thai Sparrow. So we're going to get these 3 knocked out. The first one that you'll be seeing is obviously the Kuh. And honestly, the reason I'm doing that one first is because it is my least favorite of the 3. I'm going to be frank and I'm going to be honest. I don't like this knife. It has some promise to it, and I like some ideas about it and some things about it, but I really, as a whole, I have not had a good experience with this knife. There's, bad locks or a bad button stick, just stiff detent, kind of just all around. Like it was probably one of my least favorite Kizers I've ever handled before. So yeah, we're gonna get right into this review. I don't think this is gonna be very good on my scale or my categories. So far, my lowest knife was the Kizer Mercury. It came in at 27.5, which landed it in the OK category. I'm thinking it's gonna land in there, or maybe, I don't think it'll be 25 points or less, because that's the meh category. I'm thinking it's going to be okay, but we'll see how it goes. So without further ado, category number 1, materials. I will start off by saying there is only one variation of this knife, is this one. This is the only current version you can buy, and it is going to be linked down below in the description. It is in stock at White Mountain Knives. So if you, for some reason, watch this review and you like the knife and you think it looks good, it's in stock at White Mountain Knives. Use someone's code like Lefty10, get 10% off. Get 10% off of your purchase. And yeah, so diving right into it, rocking some black linen micarta scales, which I do really like these. They have a nice kind of soft and subtle touch to them. You guys can see it's a button lock, thumb studs on both sides, loop over style deep carry Kizer clip, which is very nice. Lefty or righty, and if you don't use it on the one side, you get a filler tab on the other one, which is nice. Some knives you don't get that in this price range, but this one you do. This one has the, I'm gonna say this is a lanyard loop extending from the one scale. It's pretty much just like it's the scale extended out the whole way. You have a back flipper and a front flipper. Spear point style blade, choil up here, 154 cm on the blade. It's definitely thin behind the edge. Not the best slicing blade in the world, but it'll do the job. That's the designer's logo, which according to White Mountain is Bryce Markle Amaral and Roman Worthy. I'm not familiar with them. I could be wrong, or I could be mistaking them and thinking that I don't know what their stuff is, but I might have seen a few designs from them before. But to me, this is the first one I've handled. So some overall length, 7.56 inches, blade length of 3.19 inches, blade thickness of 0.11 inches. Of course, it's 154 cm, like I said, with a plain edge. They're calling this a drop point, but I see a lot more like spear point to it. But I guess it's a mixture between the two. Handle length is, so from here back, 4.37 inches. Of course, it's black micarta, but this is more of a linen micarta. And it comes in at 3.03 ounces, so nice and lightweight for the size of the knife. It's on bearings. There is internal milling on both sides. There's the same 3 cutouts on both scales. So like I said, it is, or excuse me, not scales, liners. So it is nice and lightweight. Now for the price and materials, which, I'll touch on later. You guys know I like to kind of keep that reveal till the end of the video. But I'm going to say, for the materials and the price, and especially if you can get it from White Mountain, which gives you a discount, I'm going to give this a 5. I don't think there's anything wrong with the materials. Micarta, 154 cm. You get 3 ways of deploying the knife with thumb studs, the back flipper, and the front flipper. Technically 4 if you want to use the button lock. So, it's has plenty of deployment methods. 154 cm is a good blade steel for that price range. Button lock, nice micarta scales. So I really can't complain about the materials. I think they're, very, very suitable for that price range. So, and I'll say this, it's less than $80. I don't want to, obviously I like to keep the full price typically for the last, segment of the video, but I will say for the materials under 80 bucks, I think that's a 5. So Honestly, I think that might be the only 5 that we're going to get out of this one, but we'll see. Next up is aesthetic. I'm not the biggest fan of, like, you guys know I like simple lines. I like really clean, very utilitarian, simplistic designs. That's kind of my thing. I love those types of things. To me, this isn't bad. It's pretty much a straight from here the whole way back. This is straight right here, straight right here. You have this giant groove right here, straight, another choil. So it's very boxy. It's very square-like. I do like how the handle sort of fits into the, the blade fits into the handle. This honestly gives me like, I think it's Key Square or Key Smart. It's like the things that come like squared off and your keys tuck in them. I'm kind of getting those vibes from it. I think it looks best this way, nice and close. You can see kind of the 2 parallel flippers pointing out there. The blade's tucked in. I'm not a huge fan of this. I really don't understand. Maybe they were using this as like kind of a pry tool or a bottle opener. I'm not 100% sure. But from an aesthetic standpoint, I really don't like that. The blade is, again, I think more of a spear point than a drop point. I'm going to give it a 3. I don't think it's the best looking knife in the world by any means. Have I seen worse? Absolutely, but this isn't going to blow my socks off. It's not really doing it for me, but I can understand the design, and I get some aspects of it, so therefore I'm going to give it a 3. Next up is action. I also don't think this is going to, and I'm not coming across as, I'm not trying to harp on this knife. Like, that's not, I rarely do full reviews to where it is a negative towards the knife. Most of the time, they're very positive, and they are, taking everything with a grain of salt. Like, I probably can count on one hand how many like negative reviews that I have done. So I'm not trying to harp on the designer. I'm just being honest, giving you guys my opinion, because that's what knife reviewers do. So just take everything with a grain of salt. You might have different, opinions than I do. You might have different viewpoints than I do. But again, you got to take everything with a grain of salt. And that's not just for me. That's for every knife reviewer you will ever watch, in my opinion. So, action. So, of course, you have the dual thumb studs. You have the back flipper and the front flipper and the button lock. So, thumb flick, it's good. It does have a pretty, honestly, stout detent for a button lock. At times, though, it's almost like too much. You kind of just have to like seat your finger real good up behind there, and then it flies out. You guys can hear right away that button stick. I mean, it's pretty pronounced. It's probably some of the worst button stick I have ever handled before. So that's kind of a nuisance. But the thumb flick is okay. Middle finger flick is okay. It's not really doing it for me, again, because you do have that really kind of stiff detent, which again is surprising for a button lock. But you have that stiff detent you have to overcome. Definitely not something you're going to want to sit there and fidget with for the most amount of time. Now you have the front flipper. Now these front flippers are, very minimalistic, which I like from an aesthetic standpoint. But you guys can see they don't have jimping like rolling up over. They have jimping here and then here, but they don't have jimping like another indent right here on the like angle on either one. So the front flipper works pretty good. It's probably, I don't want to say the easiest, because they all sort of like depend, if that makes any sense. Like one time this could be easier than the middle finger flick, but then the next time the middle finger flick can feel easier than this one. But front flipper works pretty well. But then you guys can see I fly off of it, and I have that trouble quite a lot with the back flipper, just because you have that detent to get out of there. And, you just don't have a good purchase, like my finger. I mean, I was trying to actuate the knife, but like you just don't have any jimping right where your thumb or your pointer finger tends to land. So like you have to land like in front of it and then kind of like pull back, but then your finger kind of gets in the way. It's just not the easiest. It's not intuitive. And then you guys can already see in here, the button stick is just terrible. I mean, you do have a free drop, but it's just not worth it because you have that amount of button lock, or excuse me, a button stick. You can take the button and flip it open that way, but I don't really do that often, and you can slow roll it out. So I don't think the action's that great. And granted, this is a passaround knife, so it's not like I got the knife in and tuned it up and still have these issues. But I'm honestly kind of, and it honestly kind of hurts because the amount of pressure you have to put on the button to disengage it, tears at your finger a little bit. The thumb studs kind of tear, and like it honestly hurts your hands a little bit to use. So I think this might be the lowest action rating that I've given so far, but I got to give it a 2. I'm just not vibing with it. It's definitely frustrating to use and to fidget with, and it's not an enjoyable experience, which is what you're trying to get out of. And most of these knives, you're trying to get a nice fidgetable action and, looking forward to playing with it. And this is just not doing that. So next up is acoustics. You guys can hear. Micarta obviously dampens the sound. And honestly, the loudest thing from this knife is not the open, I feel like, or the close is very soft, but like the noise you get from the button itself disengaging is almost as loud as the blade coming out. So I'm going to follow suit with the action, give it a 2. I think that's being pretty generous. Next up is ergos. Now, the ergos are pretty good. I've actually kind of enjoyed the ergos on this knife. So again, straight and pretty much straight until you hit this indentation, and then straight and then another choil. So choked back, you get a very, very good grip. I can just get all 4 fingers on there choked back. I guess having this extra little pry bar lanyard thing area back here, which I don't love, actually provides a little bit of stability for my pinky. This has a really nice natural restriction point, so I'm really locked in here, jumping up on top of the blade there. So I'm locked into a saber grip. Hammer grip I'm also locked into. But to me, the real shining star of the ergos is using this choil. So your middle finger goes right into this groove here. 2 fingers follow suit. Pointer finger wrapped around this little flat landing area into the choil. And then your thumb can either land here on the jimping, middle of the blade, or way out here if you're going to be doing push cuts through cardboard, things of that nature. Again, it's not the thinnest behind the edge, so this isn't probably like the best blade for slicing. It's not a tall blade too, so you don't have a whole lot of room to thin that out. So I think that's why it's not the thinnest, because you just don't have a whole lot of real estate. The micarta feels good. It's that London micarta, so it kind of again has like a softer, sort of more subtle touch to it. Kizer's typical deep carry clip, which is nice because it's sunk into the scales with countersunk screws, so it's nice and flush when it goes in the pocket. Definitely has a little bit of a raise there, so you can feel it. When you choke up, you really moves out of that hotspot area quite a bit. It's pretty comfortable overall, so I'm going to give, with the micarta, has a nice texture to it, with the choil, everything like that, I'm going to give it a 4. I think that's a pretty fair rating, and to me, it's pretty comfortable. I think that's probably one of the better things about this knife that I like personally. So I'm going to give it a 4 on the ergos department. Next up is carry. And, it's very lightweight. It's coming in at just over 3 ounces, which is pretty solid for almost a 3 1/4 inch blade. When you have it in pocket right here, it's nice because it carries so straight up and down. It's so thin, so minimalistic. You have no flipper tab or jimping here until you get down to the bottom of the knife. So you have even less of a chance of possibly pulling the knife up out of your pocket if you go down to grab change, chapstick, things of that nature. And you pull your hand out, you're not going to pull the knife out with you. But it's lightweight, it's thin. The pocket clip goes to the butt end of the knife, so this thing carries super duper deep. But you do have this thing sticking up out of there, which not the end of the world. But again, I just don't really, unless that's really a pry bar, or I think it's just a lanyard tube. But you could use it as kind of a scrape thing or a pry bar, which in that matter, I guess it's useful. But from a carry perspective, you're already giving me deep carry with the pocket clip, but then you have that sticking up out of there. So, it is what it is. But just everything, it carries well. I'm gonna give it a 4 as well. Actually, I'm gonna give it a 4.5 because really the only thing that I can knock the carry is just that thing sticking up out of there. I wouldn't put it on there, but it's lightweight, reversible, which is also really nice. And again, I can't knock it for anything besides the thing sticking up out of the top there. So I'm gonna give it a 4.5. Now, lastly, I come to price and value. Do I recommend the knife to you guys? I think you can tell from this review, I'm not going to recommend this knife. But granted, I think I might have just got a little bit of a dud because I have never had this issue before with Kizer button locks. I have never had this amount of button stick from Kizer button locks. Kizer makes a very, very good product, and I pretty much love everything that comes through my channel Kizer related, either loans or knives that I have in my own personal collection. So again, you have to take this with a grain of salt, but price point comes in at $76 on White Mountain knives. So if you use someone's code like Lefty10, you can knock that out right around 70 bucks, which I think is a fair price again for 154 cm, black micarta, 4 ways of deploying the knife, a decent ergo experience, a decent carry experience. So basically, if you like the way this knife looks, I would recommend trying it. Worst comes to worst, you can just send it back to White Mountain. I think they have a return policy. But odds are you're probably going to get a little bit better of an experience than I am with the button. Or you can take the knife apart and clean it and tune it and try to, make it yours, which this is a passaround knife, so I'm not going to do that. I don't feel like doing that. I don't want to mess anything up for, it already has some pretty good, it's locked up nice and tight. So, it is what it is. But I think price and value, I was obviously talking about the materials being a 5 earlier. So I think if this is knocked out of the park, I'm going to give it a 4. I don't think it's the best value if you're getting, with the risk of getting something like this that I have. But if you can get Kizer's typical quality, I do think it's a good deal. And again, if you like the design of this knife, then I'm not going to recommend it to you, but I'm not going to I'm just going to, if you were to come up with me and say, hey, I'm going to look into the Kuh, I think I want to buy it. I'm not going to say, no, you don't need to buy it. I'm just going to give you my experiences with it and let you make an informed decision for yourself. So I'm kind of right in the middle. I'm not going to disregard the knife, but I'm also not going to endorse the knife, if that makes any sense. So do some quick math here. Let me add up what the ranking is for the rating is for my scale here. All right, so that's actually a little bit lower than I thought. We have my first knife in the less than 25 point category, which is the mad category by 0.5 points. So I came up with a score of 24.5 for the Kizer Knives Kuh, and that is the lowest ranking so far. It has some good. What's the word I'm looking for? Good potential, but I just was not happy with this one. I really didn't get too much enjoyment out of it. So yeah, again, for the 70th time, take everything that I give you guys with a grain of salt. I'm just out here giving my opinions to you, and hopefully you just use my opinions to make a detailed and informed decision on whether or not you want to buy some of these knives. So, but I'm going to wrap it up now. This was my full review. See, I can't even open the damn knife. There we go. This was my full review on the Kizer Knives Kuh. Get a nice little thumbnail for you guys. Leave a comment down below. Have you guys picked one of these up? And if you have, do you have good experiences with it? Do you have bad experiences with it? Love to hear you guys have to say. But hey, I'm going to wrap it up now. So thank you guys again so much for watching. I greatly appreciate each and every single one of you guys. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your morning, evening, day, night, whenever you're watching this. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.